The translation of this verse in English is as follows: and if you fear that the society may fail to do justice in matters concerning orphans in the aftermath of the war, then marry women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. And if you fear you will not deal justly, then marry only one, or what your right hands possess. That is the nearest way for you to avoid injustice.
It's quite all clear. What is the question?
The first one he was asking about the words ma taba lakum.
Ma taba lakum, which you like, which you think will be suitable for you in every regard, particularly those who are good and just and who are religious minded. That is ma taba lakum. Otherwise, this condition will not be fulfilled. They cannot feel just, cannot behave justly to the orphans. If taba means just beauty, I mean the facial beauty, it's the beauty of the heart as well. Only in that case the problem will be resolved. And what next?
The next one was مثنى وثلاث ورباع فلماذا وقف عند الرابعة ولم يقل خماس وسداس أو لم يكتفي بثلاث.
You see, the question is, people think wrongly that this is a permission from Allah to marry more than once. It is not a permission. It is in fact made binding on the Arabs, who used to marry any number of wives. The Arab, it was a custom, would marry up to even 100, there was no problem. So all those wives had to be divorced who were extra, over and above. So this was the real problem. People think it's just a permission. It's not a permission only, it's a confinement to not more than 4. And it cannot be the will of the Quran to marry 4 times. Why not? Because Allah has created man and woman almost in equal number. And it is binding on Muslims to marry. So if the rich people and those who can afford to be just, and all Muslims are supposed to afford to be just, then 3/4, 1/4 will marry and 3/4 will be left without marriage. So people don't understand these things. So that is why the condition of justice is imposed so strongly that it is very seldom that even Muslims of good behavior can fulfill this condition. That is why in the end there is a warning. If you can't fulfill this condition, then be confined to one. That is also very important. We have seen in the marriages, wherever people have recourse to this verse and say we are permitted to marry again, there is seldom that 2 wives are kept together and honestly and treated with equal justice. Most often, one wife is left kal mu'allaqa. And in my opinion, there are very few people who treat both wives justly and keep them equally together and treat them together and financially take care of them together equally. Only Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could do it, and that is why limitation of 4 is not imposed on. Moreover, I believe that perhaps this verse was released by Allah after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had married already. For ordinary Muslims to give divorce to women was no problem. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a status where it was very difficult to give divorce to his wives, and each one will be so unhappy. So there are subtle reasons in all this what is called permission to marry more than once. Muslims are told to marry not as much as they like, but marry less and divorce all the rest. Rasulullah sallallahu expected to divorce because of his special status and the love of ladies and their concern for their status is concerned. It's very important that this verse should be like as it is found. As I already told you, the ratio between men and women all over the world is about the same. I have read facts. Scholars who have gone to different countries or collected material from different countries, and it is amazing that although in some countries the number of wives is slightly higher, but in some other countries the number of women is slightly higher. In other countries the number of men is slightly higher. On the whole, in the world, they are equally divided. So God could not mean that 1/4 of the Muslims should marry and the rest should remain without marriage. I have answered more than what was asked, but all these things had to be covered. I would like to add a few more points. Although the answer has been given more than the asked questions, but still there are implied things. Number one, it's very important that if ordinary Muslims divorce, they can marry, women can marry again. No problem. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has stressed on remarrying our divorced women and those who are left without a husband, widows. So that means that this order can apply to ordinary Muslims but not to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because his wives are ummahatul mu'mineen and you cannot marry ummahat. You see? This is a very beautiful point of the Holy Quran, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is called Ma kana Muhammadun Aba Ahadim min Rijalikum. So he can marry, he is not Aba in that sense, he is not Abu. But Ummahat are Ummahat and you cannot marry Ummahat. So this is a very subtle point, but it's a very important point. Another point is very important, that although it's called clear, but one must remember this, that it was a tradition of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that unless a special order was given on some subject, he followed the old orders of Torah, etc. That was his case of with Qibla, etc. This was a regular sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that unless the Quran had spoken especially of some subject, he would follow the Torah. So as far as the Torah is concerned, you know, 99 wives of Hazrat Saud and so many wives of Hazrat Sulaiman, etc. So that would give a general permission to all Muslims to marry as much as they like. it will disturb the order of life completely. So that is why also this verse is revealed, especially in the Quran, to give Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam authority on this, direct authority from Allah. Right? Only one question so far?
Yes.
Anyway, it will suffice for us that there's shorter number of people present here, because the first question was very long. I mean, the question was not long, but the answer had to be long. Please.